Welcome to the Deficient Vegans podcast. This is episode 55. I'm the muscle deficient vegan here with the protein deficient vegan. Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi. So this episode, we'll be talking about gym and lifting safety. And another thing we'll talk about is why honey is not considered vegan. But first up, new news. So the first piece of news we have here is that the Netherlands has reduced their national meat recommendation by 40%.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So in April, the Netherlands Nutrition Center updated its Wheel of Five dietary national guidelines, which is way cooler than our My Plate.
Oh, I know. Wheel of Five.
The new recommendation includes a reduction in meat and dairy and an increase in legumes.
We love legumes.
We do. It recommends that omnivores reduce their meat consumption from 500 grams a week to 300 grams a week and reduce their cheese consumption from 40 grams per day to 20 grams. Amsterdam also recently banned meat advertising in public spaces.
Amsterdam's doing some good work.
That meat advertising thing seems like a pretty big step.
That's huge. I feel like I see meat advertisements in America every 30 seconds.
I don't even think we could have a conversation about not advertising meat anytime soon.
People would lose their shit.
Yeah, there'd be riots.
Now that cheese consumption from 40 grams to 20 grams. Now I don't remember what the serving size is on dairy cheese, but I know the serving size on vegan cheese, 28 grams is a serving.
Yeah.
I assume that's pretty similar on dairy.
20 grams is not much for cheese.
No, it's under a serving.
Yeah, it's like a cube.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Next piece of news we have is that Morningstar Farms recently voluntarily recalled 2 products due to possible plastic pieces in the food.
You know, even though plastic is vegan, I don't think I want it in my food.
No, yeah. It doesn't have much flavor, really, if you think about it.
Might chip a tooth. I don't know. Could do some damage.
Yeah. In case you eat Morningstar products, the ones to watch out for are the Buffalo Chicken Nuggets and the Morningstar Farms Hot and Spicy Sausage Patties.
I don't think I've ever tried either of those.
I've had the chicken nuggets several times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've had the regular chicken nuggets. I actually lived on those as a child, but
not the buffalo.
I can't do things that are spicy, so neither I would have never stumbled on either of those.
Yeah. We'll have a link in the show notes, and they have specific manufacturer dates that fall into the batches they're worried about, so you can check that out. And then next up, the U.S. cattle herd is at a 75-year low. So the cattle herd, including both beef and dairy cattle, is the smallest it has been in 3/4 of a century.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. A number of factors have been pushing livestock numbers down, including rising cost, drought, international competition, and increased consolidation in the cattle industry. Now, there are fewer American ranchers and farmers than there were even a few years ago.
I mean, I guess that makes sense in terms of it seems like they're becoming larger and larger corporations.
Yeah.
As factory farming increases.
Yeah. I mean, that's, this sounds like good news for people going vegan, but I think also, if you hear people complaining about the beef prices as a result of the decreased supply, you can start pushing them towards some of the vegan options.
Yes, definitely do that. What was interesting in the article is it was also talking about basically small farms are dying. And it was saying that even though the number of actual cattle is down, that the actual tonnage is not that far down just because they're
bigger cattle.
Yeah, basically genetically modifying them to be bigger and bigger. So
yeah. We'll see how that plays out over time. And another factor we have right now is the screwworm thing going on in the South. I think it's only affected a few heads of cattle at this point, but the big concern there is just rapid infestation of the screwworm, the parasite, the fly, whatever it is.
So I would say if you hear people bitching about beef or dairy prices, you might remind them that tofu, seitan, also wheat gluten, TVP, tempeh, beans and lentils all exist, and they're quite cheap.
And if they say, I have no idea what to do with that stuff, you say, oh, I know this website, proteindeficientvegan.com.
You will be able to hit your protein goal. I do think it's a good time to start posting about how cheap our shit is.
No, for sure, yeah.
I'm going to keep that in mind with my posts.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's get into the main topic here. So we're going to talk about gym safety.
Safety. I love safety.
Yeah, you're a big safety fan. I'm surprised you don't work for NASA. Yeah, so I think, the fitness community and people in general often say that lifting weights is great for a lot of reasons, including longevity, but we don't talk a whole lot about how to safely do it. You'll see it, as kind of a side comment on somebody's telling you how to do a lift or something like that. And they're like, oh, by the way, don't do this terribly disastrous thing. Okay, move on.
In fact, I feel like it's kind of the opposite where it's pain is weakness leaving the body.
Yeah, there's
you
a
know,
lot of
it's
that.
like pain's a good thing, you know?
Right.
I feel like it's like actually the opposite. Like you should hurt, you should suffer.
Yeah, we'll talk about pain a little bit. There's definitely some of that mentality going around. Lifting heavy weights can be a little risky on its own without proper form, especially and mostly if the weight is like too heavy for you specifically.
Yeah.
But there are also other safety risks around like proper setup, having a safe way to drop the weight, and lifting around other people in a way that doesn't present a safety potential for others. So this isn't all about like lifting with safe technique. It's more about kind of the big picture of being safe in an environment like this.
Yeah. And I think it even extends, like, this isn't just specifically about weightlifting even, because we're also going to talk about like some cardio machines or just like machines in general or like exercising in general where you might be around other people and like things to watch out for.
Right. Don't do backflips on the edge of a mountain, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So
I don't think we covered that, but don't do that.
That's an easy one, right?
Just remember that.
First, let's cover pain, like what you just mentioned. There's a normal amount of discomfort that comes with weightlifting, especially if you're new to weightlifting or starting a program. A lot of soreness is tied to the novelty aspect, which is basically like you did a new exercise. So that's where a lot of that comes
like
from.
Where you do a new like exercise for the first time and then you walk like a penguin for the next 5 days.
Yeah, you can't sit on the toilet without assistance, things like that. Yeah. So a couple of the things that are kind of normal, quote unquote, are like muscles burning during a set. Like that's going to be normal. It helps you determine when you're like reaching your last rep. Yeah. And, that's something, feel the burn. So that'll be something that's not necessarily something to worry about. And you'll probably encounter it pretty often.
And it's not really like a sharp pain. It's more of like a dull, achy, burny sensation.
Right.
That, kind of increases as you continue your repage.
Yeah. It makes you want to stop.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't always stop just because it burns. Just FYI. Also, heavy breathing is pretty normal, but you should be remembering to breathe.
Yeah, that's pretty important. I think especially at stuff like deadlifts.
Oh, yeah.
People pass out during deadlifts.
I've come close a couple of times. You really got to remember to breathe.
Yeah.
Also, muscle fatigue in general. You're going to get tired when you're working out. That's normal. And it also helps know when you're reaching your last rep, kind of like the burning. Sometimes it's not a burning and it's just, wow, my arms are really tired. And that's more of like a true failure. Like I literally cannot move my arms anymore in the middle of this rep. Like I can't finish this last rep. That's more of like a muscle fatigue.
Yeah. And I think understanding what that feeling feels like and like how that applies to like when you're close to your last rep is kind of important for other safety things that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. Also normal, you should feel challenged. Like if you're lifting, it should feel hard and challenging. If it doesn't, you're probably not lifting enough weight.
Yeah. If you're just like lifting 5-pound dumbbells over and over and over and over again and like you never get tired, it's never hard.
Yeah.
You need to increase that weight.
Probably the most popular kind of pain that's pretty normal associated with working out is something called DOMS, which is delayed onset muscle soreness. This typically happens if you're just starting a new program or you're doing like a new lift or maybe a new technique on that lift or something like that. And basically how it works is you're doing a workout, everything feels great and normal. You finish your workout, you probably even feel fine for the rest of the day. You might not even be sore yet. But then you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, okay, I can't walk this morning. That's cool. Or maybe like everything is sore all at the same time, something like that. And that can actually last for maybe like a week, sometimes more, depending on, if you just sit around, it's probably going to stick around. So you want to try to move a little bit. But sometimes it'll even still be sore going into your next session. And typically working out again will kind of help alleviate it a little. But it should never involve like a sharp pain. It should just be like, oh, my muscles are really sore because I did a new thing. Most people have like less of this over time once they've done certain exercises enough. And it would be considered like a pretty normal thing for something that changed in your program.
Yeah. I kind of have a funny story about something that I thought was DOMS, but it was actually a medication side effect.
Yeah.
So my thyroid was like highly overactive. So I was on a lot of medication to like slow my thyroid hormone down. And it wasn't supposed to have any side effects. And I'd been taking it for like maybe a month. But I woke up one morning after doing a workout, like a pretty arm-focused workout, and it wasn't pain. It was that I could not lift my arms at all. Like, I physically couldn't lift them.
Yeah,
like
literally.
I literally couldn't even like put my own shirt on.
Oh no!
Like or like even pull my pants up. Like my arms just didn't work. And I remember going to the doctor, and I was like, I just don't think this is like a good thing.
Yeah.
And we eventually had to get my thyroid removed, but yeah. She like didn't believe me. And I was also like, okay, well, even knitting, even if I like knit a scarf for an hour, like I can't move my hands the next day. And she's like, maybe don't knit. And I'm like, okay. I feel like you're not doing your job very well.
Some doctors are more useful than other doctors, for sure.
Yeah. So I think, Dom shouldn't feel like that.
Right.
You should be able to move your body.
Yeah.
It just might hurt.
Yeah.
Like a dull, achy pain.
Yeah. And usually something like, probably you can take ibuprofen for it or something like that.
Yeah.
It's well past the workout, so it's not going to impact anything. But usually just kind of moving it around, getting some blood flowing through it will make it feel better. A little better. Won't fix it. There's also some pain that's not normal. And if you're experiencing it, you should stop the workout immediately, basically. The ultimate goal is to get stronger and healthier. So being out for like weeks or months due to an injury isn't going to help you meet your goals.
No.
It's not a sign of strength to like push through something that will actually injure you. So all of that, like no pain, no gain. It's like, okay, maybe no soreness, no gain. I'm cool with that. But if you're having like pain in the middle of your rep or something, well, let's.
Pain is mobility leaving my body.
Yeah, right. So here's some examples of pain that would be considered bad. Any sharp pain, any kind of joint pain. So if you're doing something like your joints should typically feel better as you go through your sets for a particular exercise. So if your joints are like hurting more as you do more reps or more sets, like let's stop that exercise for the day, maybe for a week. I don't know.
Yeah.
Until you figure out what's going on there. They should not be feeling worse as you go. Any kind of sudden popping sensation.
Now your knees pop.
Yeah. That's not really a popping sensation. That's just a popping noise.
That's true. A popping sensation would be the time I went too deep into a leg press and then my rib popped.
Yeah.
And immediately I was like, that wasn't good. But you know what? I actually finished my reps on that.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't have.
Yeah. That qualifies as bad pain. That should make you probably stop the workout.
It wasn't great.
At least it healed very quickly, though, right?
No. A month later, it was still like horrible pain just being in a car and going over a speed bump.
Yeah. You got to be careful with that.
But like, it's mostly fine now, unless it's really cold outside or it's going to storm.
Right. And that's yet another one where you go to the doctor and they're like, that's crazy. Anyway, go home.
Yeah, well, it's a rib. What are we going to do?
Yeah. Other issues that would be considered bad are like any kind of tearing feeling. Definitely. That's probably like a ER visit, maybe.
I feel like tearing is just, don't do that.
Yeah. It happens, though, sometimes.
Yeah.
Any numbness or tingling, that's not a good sign. There are a lot of things that can cause numbness and tingling. All of them you don't want to keep doing.
Yeah.
Any loss of strength. So this is different from feeling like challenged or muscle fatigue.
Like a sudden loss of strength.
Yeah, sudden loss
right?
of strength. That could be a negative sign. So probably go to the doctor for something like that.
Yeah.
Any pain that is bad enough that you're like changing the way you do the movement. Like you're intentionally doing. So you're maybe starting to do poor technique to work around pain. That's a pretty good sign that you don't need to be doing that exercise. Mm-hmm. And then also any pain that gets worse with each rep. So I kind of talked about the joint pain. And again, this is not like a burning thing. Any kind of like sharp pain or, you'll start to understand the difference between pain and soreness.
It's like my elbow hurts, and now the more I lift this thing over and over again, it's hurting more, and the pain is sharper.
Or your lower back. Like if your lower back is hurting from pretty much anything as you do more reps, you should stop that.
Don't mess around with your back.
Yeah.
You'll be out for a while.
I think elbow and lower back are probably the most common ones for this kind of thing, but it can happen in a lot of different spots. So pushing through pain like this is only going to take you out for longer than if you just took a few days off. There's a saying, I can't remember the exact words, I'm going to butcher it, but it's basically like you can choose when to take the time off or your body will choose for you. And when your body chooses for you, it usually lasts a lot longer.
You'll be out for a while.
Yeah. You could end up with a serious injury if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you might be tempted to push through the pain or lift really heavy, even if it includes bad form, so that you can hit a new PR or something like that. But, you're looking for long-term success and not just like today's PR. Like, we'll hit the PR at some point. Don't worry about it. But like, you got to take care of your body and make sure you're able. The most important thing is to make sure you're able to get your sessions in, week after week after week. So that's what we prioritize.
Yeah.
It's much better to have good form with less weight than like sloppy form with weight that's way too heavy for you right now. So talking about form, There are a couple of things you can see, or a couple of things that might be signs that your form is suffering because the weight is too heavy or you're just not comfortable enough with that exercise yet. Poor lifting form can increase the risk of injuries, especially because poor form typically means like you progress in the weight too quickly, or you don't necessarily know what you're doing, or you could have like some really catastrophic form situation, like you drop the bar and that you hit something you didn't want to hit.
Or you have like bad balance or something.
Yeah, something like that. Balance, it's like, especially with squat, like if your form's not great on squat, you might kind of tip over or something. You got to be kind of careful.
It could be a bad day.
So, yeah, I mean, there are definitely a bunch of things that make this one of the biggest safety risks. They're all related to like either increasing your weight too fast or improperly doing the exercise. It's kind of typically the ways you would get injured. Some of the common mistakes with form are like in squats, you might have your knees collapsing inward. You might have your lower back rounding. You might have your heels lifting up. So if you have any of those things going on, it's probably good to step back and evaluate, like, why is that happening? Usually it's because the weight's a little too heavy and maybe you just need to practice form with lower weight. With deadlifting, it might have like a rounded spine, specifically the rounded lower back is a big issue. The bar might be drifting away from your body. So if you don't know in the deadlift, you want to make sure the bar is in contact with your body at all times. And then like jerking the weight off the floor. This is a big one. You want to make sure you get all the tension out of your arms and the bar. So when you start to pull with the deadlift, there should be no slack left in your arms. You're just pulling off the floor immediately.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like yanking your arm out of the socket.
Right, yeah. Bench press, a couple of things you might look out for are like your wrists bent backward. You don't want that. That's just going to hurt your wrist. You want to make sure it's as straight as possible. Your elbows flared excessively. You want to minimize that. So try to keep them tucked in a little more, somewhere around a 45-degree angle, depending on your anatomy. And then bouncing the bar off of your chest. That's a big one. So with bench press specifically, a lot of injuries that happen are going to be something maybe like a shoulder thing or like a pec tear or something like that. And that's typically going to happen if you're like bouncing the weight out of the bottom position, because that's like, going back into another direction very quickly with a very high load. Maybe it's even more than you can lift because it's pretty easy to bring the bar down. It doesn't take much strength. So if you bring the bar down and it's more than you can push back up and you go into like a quick bounce and you start to push, you can have a tear. So you can be careful there.
Tears aren't good.
No. Overhead press, some things to look out for are like excessive back arch. You want to keep your back pretty straight. Again, with the lower back is specifically what we're talking about there. Locking the knees, you don't really want to do that just because, there's always a potential if you're standing and you lock your knees, you could pass out.
Learn that in choir.
Yeah, I learned that in high school as well. I was in JROTC, so we were standing around at attention a lot and, came kind of close to blacking out a couple times, but I never actually fell over. So
hey.
Also with overhead press, you want to be careful about how you press the bar around your face. Make sure your face is not in the way of the bar, because one of the things you can do if you're not familiar with how to move your head is basically push the bar straight up into your chin, and you don't want to do that.
Yeah, or your nose.
Yeah.
You get a free nose job.
Right. With rows, you want to try to avoid using momentum. That's kind of the same as yanking the bar in the deadlift. So make sure, you have tension the whole time. It's a controlled movement, things like that. Also with rows, try not to shrug your shoulders too much. Just let them be relaxed and pull with the normal motion. And then make sure you're also not hyperextending your neck in most exercises, but specifically in rows is something people have an issue with.
I feel like something that probably applies to most exercises, you just don't want to be like swinging weight around unless it is like an exercise specifically for swinging weight around, like a kettlebell exercise. But everything else, it's like you do want to have control of the weight at all times, right?
Yeah, in general, you should be, everything should be pretty tense. You should be, a slow, controlled movement. For most exercises, you should be able to kind of stop at any point in the range of motion safely. Like if you can't stop the weight, it's probably a little too heavy. There are some exclusions there, but in general, you should be able to control the weight through the entire range of motion.
Not relying on momentum.
Right. And that obviously doesn't apply to power movement, like Olympic movements, like the clean and jerk or snatch or something like that. Those are a little different, but yeah.
The clean jerk and snatch.
So some of the ways you can identify if you're having some of these issues, the big one is filming yourself. That can be a great way to see if you have good form. It's hard to tell if your form is good while you're doing the exercise, even if you have a mirror.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you could get hurt trying to look in the mirror even.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And that's actually one of the big issues with deadlift specifically. People like to look really forward so they can see themselves in the mirror, but you really want to kind of be looking at the corner of the wall and the floor in a lot of cases.
Be a silly way to get hurt.
Not only is it maybe your head's in a weird position when you're looking in the mirror, but it's also, if you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you're distracted. So you should really be focusing on the lift and your technique and getting the rep done, and not like, ooh, my arms look great while I do this. And that's fine for something like curls. Like, you know, you're watching yourself do curls and watch yourself all day long. But if you're doing deadlifts or squats, like, you should not be distracted.
Plus, if you take a video, it'll last longer.
Yeah, there you go. And if you do take a video, you can get a form check on like Reddit. Has a couple of subreddits where you can post a form check video, or you can join our Deficient Vegans Discord. You can post in there and we'll give you a form check. So.
He'll give you a form check.
Or maybe some of the people in our community.
I'll give you a fire emoji.
We have actually several people in the community who are pretty good at doing form checks. So, yeah.
It's pretty active.
Also, when we talk about safety, we need to talk about not overdoing how much you're lifting. So progressive overload is when you slowly add weight over time as you get stronger and your muscles get bigger. So we want to make sure we're not jumping up and doing ego lifting way more than we're actually ready for.
Yeah.
Guys have a bad tendency to do this with the big lifts like bench and squat, mainly bench. It's like, oh, I'm going to go straight from 2 plates at 225 to like 3 plates at 315. It's like, okay, I mean, there's like a year of progress in between those two things, maybe more. So maybe don't do that. And then they'll get hurt. So.
I think it's also like, oh, it's progressive overload. So I should be adding something every time I do this exercise, which isn't always the case. Yeah,
not always weight. You should be probably adding something most times you do the exercise, but it's like usually reps or sets or something like that. If you're trying to add weight every time, especially if you should only be adding it if you successfully did your target the week before or the session before. So, yeah, I mean, you can definitely run into issues if you're like, well, I didn't quite get my 10 reps I was supposed to do, but I'm going to increase it anyway. And they're like, okay, well, you're definitely not going to get it this time. So I don't know what the plan was there, but now you're lifting more weight than you can handle. So, yeah, that happens a lot, actually. You got to be careful there. It's definitely more important to just maintain like good and safe form than it is to move up through the weights. In general, you should also just think about it in these terms, and this helped me a lot because I have a tendency also to want to lift heavy things. But think of it as like the weight on the bar is not really the goal. The goal is to get stronger. The goal is to build more muscle, and the weight on the bar is just a tool to make the exercise more challenging. So if the exercise is already challenging and you're like in the right rep range or in the right sets or whatever, there's not a reason to increase the weight because the weight is just a tool. So I was, there was one point where, people were asking like, how should I track my dumbbells? Do I count them both together? Or like I have different, like my weight stacks at the gym don't have numbers on them or whatever. So, I've told people a couple of times, like you don't really need to think about it because the number doesn't matter. Like the weight stack at the gym might as well be like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Like D is the setting I need to get, my 12 to 15 reps or whatever. And eventually that gets too easy. Now I can do, 20 reps with D. I got to move up to E. Like the number isn't really super relevant.
So, maybe if it helps you not go crazy, you just use letters.
Yeah, exactly. And it, obviously if you're doing like powerlifting competitions or weightlifting competitions, the number is important. But for somebody who's just at the gym, maybe you just like start thinking about the numbers as letters and then it won't matter to you. Yeah, something like that. That was just an example of like how unimportant the actual number.
Yeah.
One thing to think about while you're in the gym is the warm-up. So warming up is helpful for not getting injured. This doesn't necessarily need to be like a 20-minute session where you're foam rolling and doing a bunch of yoga poses and stuff like that. But if you could do like a quick general warm-up where you're doing some kind of cardio, like biking, rowing, elliptical, something like that. Walking, yeah. That can help you get just generally warmed up. I like to do that for a few minutes just so I can make sure like, hey, my body's functional. I don't feel anything weird, something like that. And then, I would recommend going and doing like a movement-specific warm-up when you go to do your actual exercises. So if you have squats, you do a couple of sets of like lower weight squats, and you can progressively build that up to what you're going to be doing for your normal sets. And then that's actually the best way to warm up for squats is to do lighter squats. I think Jay Cutler, who was a big bodybuilder, still a big bodybuilder technically, but he was like Mr. Olympia several times. He calls them feel sets. So his warm-up sets are basically you just get in there and you move the weight around to feel if anything's wrong with like your muscles or you're feeling anything strange or any injuries, anything like that.
Before you really fuck it up.
Right, exactly. So, think about it that way.
No, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. You can also do like dynamic stretches. So if you know you're going to be working out your upper body that day, you can do like a couple of arm swings, maybe some like band things where you take a resistance band, you stretch your arms out, stuff like that. Those can help a little bit. But typically you can probably get away with just doing like either the cardio for a couple minutes and then doing lighter weights of your working exercises.
You know my favorite dynamic stretch?
What's that?
Okay, it's off P90X, but it's called stirring the soup.
Oh, yeah, the stirring the soup.
So you basically like your legs are kind of like shoulder width apart, and then you like bend over with your legs straight, and then you like take one arm to stir the soup as wide as you can.
Yeah, you just kind of swing it in big circles.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, it actually feels good on your upper back.
It feels great.
Sometimes there's actually a common cramp for lifters, and I get it a lot. It's kind of like near your shoulder blade. It's like it cramps up. I think the stir in the soup helps stretch that out pretty good. So I like that one.
I'm sure it has like a real name, but that's what they call it in P90X.
That's the name, if that's what they call it.
Stir in the soup.
All right, so moving away from things about like the specific exercise or specific technique, let's talk a little bit about gym safety in general. So like you're at the gym, how can I be safe in other ways that aren't just me doing this exercise?
Yes. Not movement related.
Right. First of all, lifting alone can be kind of dangerous in general if you're not aware of the risk and you don't have a plan for how you can safely drop the weight or fail if you can't hold on to it anymore.
Yeah.
This is why people usually recommend a spotter at the very least for bench press, because out of all the things you can get injured doing alone, bench press is like top of the list by far.
Dude, it's in so many movies. This happens to people.
So a couple other things you need to keep in mind so that you can make sure that your lifting environment is safe.
Yeah.
One, if you need to drop dumbbells, you might not want to use adjustable dumbbells because they're a lot more fragile and they're a lot more expensive and they'll break.
They'll break and then you'll be really sad because you have to go buy more.
And it's also your only dumbbell.
Yeah.
If you drop and break your 20-pound dumbbell and you have a whole set, who cares? If you drop and break your adjustable dumbbell, you can't work out anymore.
Yeah, and you're out a lot of money.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're in a situation where you're going to be working out alone, doing dumbbell exercises, and you feel like you might need to drop them, try not to drop your adjustables.
Yeah. I would say if you're alone, probably avoid doing exercises with weight over your head, like, skull crushers. That's one of my favorites. And I've definitely done it at home alone a lot in my youth. And now I'm like, I don't think I would do that at home alone anymore.
Yeah.
Because, if you do drop it, it's called skull crushers for a reason, and you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, and I'm sure people will be out there like, I've been doing skull crushers for 30 years, but, there's always a chance. And there are other exercises you can do. You don't need to do skull crushers.
Yeah. Also, I think where I started getting a little freaked out was I was using the adjustable dumbbells for skull crushers, and I was like, what actually holds in the plates?
Yeah.
What if that broke? How am I checking that? Is there any kind of maintenance I should be doing on this? Maybe I'm just not going to put weights over my head anymore.
Can't ever get the engineer out of your mind.
No. Is the mechanical integrity of this okay? I'm not sure.
Even with fixed dumbbells, you'd be like, how's that weld?
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I'm going to need to see the welding documents. If we get good penetration, I'm not sure.
So yeah, things over your head, definitely slightly more risky than things not over your head. Be careful there. Can't get away with it with some things, but maybe skull crushers, you could use lots of different other triceps exercises.
Oh, I know.
But if you're doing military press with a barbell over your head, there are ways to fail that safely for one, but also you could just use dumbbells.
Yeah.
Dumbbells aren't directly over your head, so yeah.
Right.
Another thing is that you want to know your limits. If you're home alone and you can't safely drop the weights, have a good idea of what it feels like when you're 1 to 2 reps away from failure.
Yeah.
I would also recommend practicing failure for all of your lifts that involve dangerous positions.
Mm-hmm.
Like squats.
But with less weight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I should have made that clear. Practice failure with...
Don't fail with 400 pounds on your back if you don't need to.
Practice failure with little to no weight, like empty bars, light dumbbells.
We're not trying to cause safety events.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. And then also avoid distractions and make sure you can hear what's going on around you. If there's nobody else in your house, maybe it doesn't matter much what's going on around you, but...
Yeah, but what if... Okay, I've watched a lot of Final Destination movies.
Mm-hmm.
What if you're doing bench press or you're doing squats and all of a sudden something happens with your rack and you would have heard it because it went,
Yeah.
And then it horribly fails, and then you horribly fail, and then you try to escape from the squat failure position, and you can't, and you die.
That's interesting. I was thinking more like, what if the smoke detector's going off?
That's a good one, too. Yeah, no, fire safety is also important. But, like, you never know what's going to happen. Or, okay, what if you have kettlebells somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And they're on, like, a rack, and you have, like, a bunch of kettlebells on this rack, and you're standing there really focused on this one thing. Let's say you're doing some kind of a lunge, right?
Okay.
And the kettlebells are on this rack close by, and all of a sudden, the rack breaks.
Yeah.
And now you have balls just rolling on the ground, and then you trip over them, and then you faceplant and die because you're on a concrete floor in your basement.
You mean medicine balls, maybe?
Yeah, I do mean medicine balls.
Okay. Yeah,
I do.
Kettlebells don't do much.
Yeah, they don't roll.
But no,
But
that's
medicine balls.
No, that's realistic.
Yeah, and then it's like you would have heard the things dropping, but no, you were listening too loud to Taylor Swift, you know?
Yeah.
And then she's going to have a song about your pain, so.
This is an oddly specific example.
These are the things, you know, I've been in a lot. You have to understand my background. I do a lot of, like, PHAs, process hazard analysis. You think of, like, the most absurd thing, but, like, sometimes it happens.
That's true. A lot of headphones now have a transparency mode, so you can hear the stuff going on around you while you're listening to music.
Yeah.
So good to know.
I don't know. What if that breaks?
There's also some specific advice for specific exercises, like the bench press. So a couple of safety tips for that are never put the collars on the bar, like to hold the weights on.
Yeah.
If you don't have safety arms, definitely don't do it. I would just never do it. There's never really a benefit on bench press.
If you're alone.
If you're alone. Or
Yeah.
even if you're not alone.
What if you have kids crawling on the floor?
Okay.
We have a kids section later.
The reason is you need to be able to drop the weight somehow.
Right.
So with bench press, if you don't have safety arms or something, you're basically going to be pinned under the bar. It's going to be sitting on your chest. And if you don't have the collars on the end, then you can kind of lift one side up potentially and dump the weight off that side and let it, fling back over and dump the weight off the other side. That's kind of the I wouldn't say recommended, but that's like worst case scenario recommended way to fail a bench press.
Like if you don't have a spotter and you also don't have a safety arm.
Yeah.
But I also wouldn't use this method unless you're sure you can safely dump that and no one else is getting hurt.
Yeah, that's true. Like if you have pets or kids or something like that. Yeah. And in general, you should just know what your plan is to safely dump the plates or safely fail the exercise. Make sure you have enough space to do that. Make sure it's not going to drop on like your foot or another body part or something like that. Of course, if you dump a bench press on your foot, you're in a pretty awkward position. But just in general, be aware. And then, you should use the safety pins, or better yet, call your buddy over and use a spotter.
Yeah. Make sure he can lift it, though.
Yeah.
Or they can lift it. It could be a girl.
Sure. Especially if it's like you're going for a new PR or you're lifting like extremely heavy, something like that. Because like maybe different parts of your program, you're lifting different kinds of weight, whatever. But if it's like, this is going to be a hard set, I'm not sure if I'm going to get it done, a spotter is a good idea for bench press and or well set up safety arms. For squats, always use the safety bar. I mean, there are situations, especially with weightlifting, people are squatting out of open racks a lot. And I know a lot of people will squat on the outside of the squat rack. If you have the option and you have equipment to use the safety bars wherever you're doing squats, just use the safety bars. I've failed a lot of squats, and I'm really glad I was always using safety bars.
Or I guess like dumbbells. If you can go up high enough in weight that it's helpful, right?
Yeah, which most people can't, so...
Like some people could. You don't know what people are squatting.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you can't, if you don't have another way to safely squat, I would definitely switch to like a goblet squat with a dumbbell, or even just usually doing like lunges one leg at a time, something like that. I would not squat in an unsafe way, especially alone. Not a good plan.
No.
And again, if you're into Olympic weightlifting and you know how to ditch the weight, you do you, but most people are not in that boat. So make sure when you are using the safeties, you're not setting them too low, because if the safety should be like maybe an inch or two below where the bar naturally goes at your lowest position. If it's a lot lower than that, it's not going to help you much, because you're going to be down in the bottom position of your squat and looking at the safeties 8 inches below that and thinking, wow, those are useless.
We're just falling to the ground. All of us together.
And you also want to make sure it's not too high, because that's going to interfere with your squat.
Yeah.
So you should have like a setting on the rack that is like your setting for the safeties. Maybe keep a note in your phone, something like that. Put them in the same spot every time. Easy peasy.
Yeah, and that kind of goes in line with what you were saying about basically like try a failure position.
Yeah.
with less weight
Yep.
or no weight.
You should know all this because you practice failing. Yeah. With deadlifts, again, don't yank the heavy weights. Know when you're done deadlifting. If you're like seeing stars and you've got 3 reps to go, you're done. You're done. Yeah.
Please stop. Don't pass out. People pass out during deadlifts.
It's fairly common to pass out during deadlifts.
It makes sense. You're doing all of that strain and then you're also like upside down.
Yeah. And you don't really control what direction you fall when you pass out for the most part.
No, and you're around a bunch of metal shit.
Mm-hmm.
You can get pretty fucked up.
Yeah, bad situation all around. So make sure to breathe, learn how to breathe during the deadlift, and then stop once the world starts going a little black.
And maybe like take some breaths in between each rep.
Yeah.
If this is something you're worried about,
Try to, ditch the caffeine is my recommendation, although I know that goes over like a lead balloon. So.
Don't piss people off, Abel. We want them to listen.
Anyway, things that raise if you already have high blood pressure, you keep that in mind. Definitely don't combine high blood pressure and caffeine and deadlifts. I wouldn't recommend that. It's not medical advice, but I wouldn't recommend that. Definitely don't combine all of that.
And cocaine.
Well, definitely don't combine all of that with cold medicine, which is what I did 10 years ago.
Fucking Sudafed. Damn.
Yeah, no, that's a bad situation. But anyway, be careful there. And then for machines, don't assume that a machine always has a safe way to fail built in. You need to understand the machine and what happens if you fail a rep. Like, I've got one client now who uses a hack squat that doesn't have safety pins. So we're constantly like, okay, how can I adjust the reps? So if I have to fail, I'll figure it out. Or I'm not doing like really heavy reps and I can't get out of it. And it's like, yeah, that really sucks. But hack squats are really good. So what do we want to do? And they're like, I want to keep doing hack squats. We're like, okay, cool. But we have to have a plan. You could also, in machines, pinch your fingers if you're not careful.
Yeah.
There are a lot of, they're all just metal moving parts and stuff like that. You want to make sure your fingers are clear of any weird situations. So, there could be like moving arms, things with a weight stack that are weird. You want to be careful.
Pinchies.
Pinch. And you need your fingers. They're important.
You gotta have your fingers.
Now, if you have children and pets around your home gym, or even there are actually some gyms that have like a gym dog, which I'm
I know.
I love dogs.
I'm like,
not a big fan of that.
I get to pet this dog, but also, please, I'm so worried about your safety.
Yeah. The one in Pittsburgh had a dog, right?
It did.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like people don't really talk about child or pet safety when it comes to gyms as much as they should. I remember a couple of years ago, there was that Peloton incident with the treadmill. And it was like, basically, it was too high up and like very, very small children and like pets were, like, basically they got crushed under it, right?
Yeah, because they could fit underneath.
Yeah. And their parents didn't know they were underneath or like there. So, and they probably never thought that could happen.
Yeah, who would think?
So I think this section is really important if you like your children or pets.
Yeah. I think, children in general love to copy what their parents are doing, even if they don't have knowledge. So even if this is a situation where it's like, there's 2 aspects to it. It's like you're actively working out and your kid's in the room and you have to be careful, but also you have to worry about like your kid going back to the gym after you're done, if it's like a home gym situation, and trying to do the stuff you did and getting hurt.
Yeah. Plus, like, honestly, the weights and the different machines and like your medicine balls and all of those things, like maybe they're fun colors or maybe they just look cool.
They look like toys.
They do. They look like toys.
They're like death traps, but they look like toys.
They're fun little death trap toys.
So, kids are very curious, especially younger kids. So that can cause accidents and injuries and you just need to be careful.
Yeah. Because that would be pretty awful, So some tips there. And I think number 1 for that situation is like lock up your home gym. Yeah. If you have the ability to have a door or, I guess, even if you don't have a door, maybe like a gate or something. And then I would say really try hard to not let your children in there unless you're going to be there to watch what they're doing.
Yeah. Also, try to store plates vertically or use storage on your rack. Plates are pretty heavy. They can pinch your fingers, smash little toes, things like that.
Oh, I know. And kids are always running around barefoot and stuff.
Yeah.
Imagine their little baby fingers.
I will say, this isn't really kid specific, but using the storage on your rack doesn't necessarily prevent these things, because I did pull a 45 off of a rack once when I was tired from doing squats and dropped it like 4 feet onto my toes. Luckily, it didn't do anything too crazy, but it did hurt.
So also wear steel-toed boots in the gym.
I don't know about that one. Don't leave dumbbells laying around. They might play with them or trip over them. If they're like running around in the gym, maybe that's also like the area of the house that's the biggest. There's like a play area in the basement or something like that. You got to be careful. Never leave a loaded barbell unattended. I think this one's more for probably older kids who could actually lift it up. But if they don't know what they're doing, it could be really dangerous. So.
Yeah.
And, if you have an older kid that's interested in the gym, then conversation number 1 should be, let's do this, but gym safety.
Yeah. Gym safety always first.
Yeah.
And then, resistance bands you should probably keep out of reach because those things, like, they snap freaking hard.
That's probably the easiest one to hurt yourself with on accident.
Yeah. Plus, like, kids like to chew on that shit, especially like if it's like a really little kid, they might chew on it. It's like a choking hazard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good.
You might not think about it, but the collars you use to attach weights to the barbell can be extremely finger pinchy. Like, even if you know how to use them, like, I'll snap my fingers or pinch my fingers, pretty regularly on those damn things.
I always make you close them for me.
Yeah, you definitely want to keep those away. That will definitely pinch the shit out of a kid's finger.
Yeah. And like benches. Yeah. You want to make sure your benches are secure too, because like a lot of them are adjustable, and you can pinch your fingers on that too. Yeah. Little pinchy fingers.
Or even if it's a flat bench, they might crawl up on it and fall off.
Yeah.
Things you don't really think about. Most importantly, teach your kids the rules and dangers of the gym. If you can't go in the gym, if that's the rule, make sure it's a rule.
Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it kind of looks like a playground.
Yeah.
Like a fun school playground.
Yeah, and it kind of is. Just, more for adults.
Yeah, there's an age limit.
Or at least teenagers.
Yeah. And then, I mean, just in general, like, be aware of all the crushing, pinching, and tripping hazards.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot. And this is really just like...
That's for you, too.
If you're not there. Yeah. Like, there's a whole lot of other safety issues if you are there and your kids are around.
Right, yeah.
So...
It's like a lot of heavy equipment. You just have to be careful.
Yeah. I would say if you have no way to keep your kids out of the space where you're working out, you need to be very careful and aware of where they are at all times, especially if there's potential, like where you're failing an exercise and you don't know where your kid is and you can't keep them out of that room.
Yeah. I mean, the last thing you want is to be like, oh, okay, I got to put this weight down. And you're like, oh, wait, I can't. My child is right underneath the spot where I need to put
Timmy's right there.
Timmy the tutor.
And then, like, also, like, kind of like we were talking about earlier, like, beware of running equipment. So, like, treadmills, stationary bikes, row machines. I mean, even stationary bikes, because you're, like, whipping your legs around really fast. Like, he could just come up behind and get smacked in the face.
Animals also real bad about this one. They love stuff like that. That's, like, moving. It looks like you're running. Like, they want to come run with you.
Yeah, they want to run with you. Yeah, I mean... It can sound really obvious, but kids, especially like little kids, don't know to stay away from that stuff.
Yeah.
They get struck, crushed, nothing good.
Yeah.
And then, pets are actually pretty similar to small children in their way of thinking and really like how they like to mimic their pet parents and like do the things they're doing and be involved all the time. And they're just very unpredictable because they have no idea what's happening and they just want to be around you.
Yeah. Can you imagine you're doing like heavy squats? You got like 400 pounds on your back and then a dog comes over and he like jumps up on you to play. Like, what are we doing?
I'm going to pet the dog is what I'm going to do. Yeah, I mean, they could walk behind your deadlifts, your squats, any exercise really where you're like facing a certain direction and you can't see the full view around you.
Yeah.
But you're moving heavy weights.
That might be a good reason to have mirrors, I guess, if you have.
I guess so, yeah. I think solution number one, what you should definitely try to do is keep them out.
Yeah, for sure.
Probably just don't have them in your gym. If you like your pets, if you like your kids, keep them out of your gym. Unless you have a partner or a friend that can be there and monitor the dogs. Or the children.
Right. They could also be like laying underneath or crawling underneath benches while you're on them. You're like looking up when you're doing like a bench press or something. You can't see them at all. You might not even know they came in the room. Mm-hmm. So you got to be careful with that, especially if you're going to drop the weights. Plus, you could just kick them.
You could kick them. You don't want to kick a dog.
Or a child.
Or like, honestly, any exercise where you're like flailing your arms or legs for any reason.
Jumping jacks.
I like kettlebell swings. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, what's that weird thing you do on the bench where you flip your legs up?
Like leg raises?
Yeah, I know that's very fast and violent looking. Yeah. You could fling a dog or a child.
They can also chew on a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of weird stuff you keep in the gym, usually like electrical cords, resistance bands.
Oh, yeah. Which, bad for you because they might fail on you now, but also bad for them because it's like a choking hazard or like, I don't know, horrible things can happen.
This is like the Final Destination episode for sure.
Yeah. You're realizing how paranoid I am. It's very paranoid.
Also, if you have like a cat, they climb things.
They climb stuff. They could be climbing your rack while you're doing a 400-pound squat and then jump on your head. And then you guys are both like totally screwed.
Wow,
I guarantee this has happened to somebody.
Somewhere.
If this has happened to you, tell us about it. Or even like kids climb on equipment. I don't have kids. I could totally see like a 3 or 4-year-old climbing on a squat rack like like a jungle gym.
Oh, absolutely. Like, especially since they're colorful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they have like bars at the top. They'd be like, ooh, yeah, we're going to swing from that. Yeah, this looks like a good time.
And even if the kid's not in the way, they could leave something in your way. So they like roll up their little dump truck right behind you when you're trying to do something and you don't know it's there.
They're setting you up with traps. Yeah. So I think, if you have a gym that you can block off, that's like the best option.
Yeah. And then, try to do your exercise while your like pets or your kids are occupied somewhere else.
Yeah. Give them a tablet or set them up with SpongeBob or whatever children are watching. Bluey. Yeah. I hear that's good.
Have somebody else in the house watch them, hang out with them for a little bit.
Yeah. And then
just tell them, if you do like my parents did when we were kids, and they say, okay, go outside, come back when it's dark.
I don't feel like people are just like sending their children out on bikes anymore to like go. I wouldn't. You can do whatever you want. I don't have kids.
We didn't even have phones back then. It was literally like my parents had no idea where I was from like sunrise to sunset.
My parents didn't do that. They always knew where I was at every moment of every day. And that's why I'm alive today.
Yeah.
Thanks, parents.
I'm here too.
You got lucky. And then, always check your surroundings before you go to do anything. Like, if kids can get in there, even if you don't think they can get in there, just like, you should be looking around if you have kids and small pets that you like.
Even if you don't, you may not remember what you left laying around
That's
last
true,
time.
too,
like,
yeah.
I'll take stuff off the rack all the time, and it's like, okay, I put it here just for now, and then I'll go to use it again, and I'll like almost trip over it.
Yeah, you're kind of bad about that. I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
Or like leave weight plates because you're like, I'm not re-racking. This isn't a commercial.
You do that.
Yeah, it's our gym. I can leave the weights out. I'm gonna put them back.
Yeah, if I trip, who gives a shit?
So I'll run down there. I'm like, wait. I left the thing out.
You do that, yeah.
Okay. So now if you're at like a commercial gym or a shared gym, there's a couple of different things to think about.
Yeah, you have to care about your safety and also about all the people around you safety.
Yeah. In general, like there are a lot of kind of unspoken or sometimes actually written rules around gym etiquette, mostly about gym safety for the most part. Sometimes it's like, don't take pictures in the locker room. But mostly it's
Honestly,
about gym safety.
That's about gym safety too, though.
So. Yeah, I guess that's true.
Like, safety does extend past physical harm.
That's true. That's a good point.
You don't want to be sharing other people's like personal photos and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
What if they're in witness protection? Now you just outed them. Now they're getting hit by the mob, and that's your fucking fault. So don't take pictures at the gym.
That's true. You're making some really good points there.
Yep.
All right. So a couple things at a commercial gym. One big one is like, don't walk behind somebody when they're deadlifting, squatting, or doing any position where they could like be spooked by your presence. It might cause them to lose balance or injure themselves or you.
Yeah.
Or if they need to like fail and walk away or something, like you don't want to be right there. A lot of things.
Yeah. Now your foot's getting crushed by a bunch of weights.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
You don't need to be that bad.
Yeah. Also, don't reach across equipment while they're using it. You can get hurt. They can get hurt. Just don't do it.
Don't do it.
Give people space in general. Gyms can be pretty crowded sometimes, but if you need to do a specific exercise and you don't have the space to do it, just wait. You don't need to risk yourself and risk another person. Lateral raises are a big one. Like they take up a lot of space and people are like swinging their arms into your face all the time in a crowded gym. So it's annoying. Never stand in somebody's lifting path. So again, nobody wants to get smacked in the face or stomach with a 50-pound dumbbell.
No, nobody does.
Yeah.
And they don't want to smack you in the face with a 50-pound dumbbell.
You're going to mess up their set.
Now they're going to have to like come in, comfort you, and probably get you Kleenex.
There's nothing I hate worse than I'm like doing a new PR and somebody puts their face right in the way of my dumbbell and messes up my set.
I know. Well, speaking of that, watch for like swinging kettlebells because those are really fast. And whoever's doing them usually doesn't have any control to like stop that movement abruptly.
Or maybe they'll just accidentally let go and it'll go flying.
It could be even worse. Like you're probably going to get hurt if you get in the way of a swinging kettlebell movement.
Yeah. Another big one, if your gym has like lifting platforms and they're actively being used, don't cut across the platform unless there's like literally no other way to walk in your gym for some stupid reason. People are like, typically on a platform, somebody's like either doing a deadlift set or like a powerlifting set or an Olympic lifting set or something like that, or they're like mentally preparing to like start at the exact moment they feel ready.
Right.
So when you throw them off their game in a platform, that is like a little more high stakes situation for like screwing up their session.
Yeah. And I think something else to consider is just like everyone's probably lifting close to their max that they can lift. So like anything where they get thrown off balance or something could be really dangerous for them.
Oh, definitely. Also, be aware of where you're sitting down equipment. Don't make tripping hazards for other people. There's a lot of gyms that actually don't let you carry bags on the gym floor for this reason. Also your water bottle can be an issue.
Right, or your phone or whatever.
Yeah.
Just don't set up tripping hazards for others. Like, keep any personal property really close to you. Have an idea of where it is.
Yeah.
Also, you don't want to get stolen. So, like, double win. Keep an eye on that shit.
That's a good point. You also want to make sure you wipe down gym equipment when you use it. This is a little different than what we've been talking about.
Yeah, and you might think, oh, that's just like some prim and proper thing to do. But actually, it prevents the spread of harmful bacteria, viruses, and fungi, like staph infections and ringworms.
Yeah.
You want to be responsible for that?
Those things are actually fairly common in a gym environment. So it's like, I know it's like, well, I don't want to wipe down my thing, but like, it's actually kind of a big deal.
Yeah, you should do that.
I don't want whatever the hell you have going on.
Yeah, if you don't want to do that, go work out at home.
Yeah. Make sure you're using the equipment the way it's intended. Don't use it for weird shit that can hurt you, hurt others around you.
I see some weird shit on TikTok where people are like using a squat rack, like that bar at the top for like spinny doos like you would if you were a gymnast. And I'm like, you really shouldn't be doing. What are you doing?
Yeah, people use squat racks all kinds of crazy ways. There's also like one thing I don't really like, even though there's an official product for it now, is like the gem pin thing, where it's like on a weight stack, you put a pin in and add weight plates to it to add more weight.
Yeah.
The machine and the cables are usually rated for like what's in the stack.
Right, yeah.
And I'm sure there's some tolerance there, but I've seen
You don't know what that is, though.
Also, and I've seen plenty of videos where you put a gem pin on and the cable snaps.
Right.
You don't want that. Like if you're doing face pulls and the cable snaps, you're going flying across the gym.
Yeah, and then you're probably going to hurt someone else that had nothing to do with your stupid decision.
And you've got this metal weapon in your hand when you're flying across the gym now, by the way.
But also, like, if it doesn't snap on you and you're, like, weakening cables or, screwing up gym equipment, it's probably going to fail on somebody else, and then they're going to get hurt.
Yeah, and even if nobody gets hurt, you just broke $1,000 piece of equipment.
Just do what you're supposed to do, okay? You don't need to be creative.
Also, if you're doing something like walking lunges, make sure it's an area of the gym that you can do it safely without, screwing somebody else over.
Oh my gosh, there was this one, you remember that one girl that was, like, doing walking lunges through our gym, and she was like right in the way of everybody, and she did it for like 5 minutes. It was so rude.
She was walking right behind all 3 racks.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
Not a great space. There wasn't a great space to do it in that gym, but there were better spaces than that for sure.
But also, you don't have to do like 10 walks forward if there's not space for it.
Yeah.
Do 2, turn around and do 2, and just keep doing that.
Yep.
You don't have to...
Yeah, that one was, it seemed like everybody involved was pretty annoyed with that one.
Yeah, no, everyone was just like watching it, just so pissed.
And just make sure you always check your surroundings in general before you start any exercise. Especially at a commercial gym, you never know like what somebody's doing, where they laid a bench, how they set up a machine, what safety things they took off the machine.
Right, trip hazards they created behind your feet.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
There's also some etiquette when it comes to spotting. So spotting is something that'll happen in a commercial gym quite a bit, whether that's you're asking for a spot or other people yell out and ask you for a spot maybe. You might think you're being helpful when you're spotting, but always make sure the person who's lifting knows you're going to be spotting.
Yeah.
So sometimes people will like go over and grab the bar. And, without even, they weren't even involved in the lift. Just
this happens to girls a lot.
Yeah. Some stranger just comes over and helps them out.
They're like seeing a girl do something, and it's like obviously all these exercises are hard. So you see like struggle, but it's not like a struggle of I can't do this.
I'm
it's
unsafe.
Just it's just like it's hard. It's heavy, man.
Yeah.
They come over and they just yank it out of your arms.
Yeah.
Like, you could injure the person.
Right. Absolutely.
Or scare them, or like who knows what.
Yeah. Or make them not want to come back to the gym anymore.
Yeah.
That's bad too. If you're offering to spot somebody, make sure you know how to spot. It's not a hard thing to do, but make sure you're like understanding of how spots work.
Don't offer to spot if you don't really know what you're doing, or if you can't like actually lift whatever they're going to need you to hold on to.
Number 1 rule of spotting, by the way, just a tip here, is you don't touch the bar unless they ask for help or the bar starts going the wrong direction. So if like doing bench press, unless they ask for help or the bar starts going back down, don't touch the bar. Be very ready to touch the bar, but don't touch the bar.
Yeah, because you could really make it unbalanced pretty easily.
Yeah. And some people, most people, once you have to reach in and intervene to spot them, they'll want to finish the set. Some people like forced reps, which is where you're like helping them spot them through the last couple reps. So you probably also want to agree on that before you do it. Yeah.
And I will say, if you're thinking you want someone to spot you, but you don't want to go grab somebody and you're just hoping like if I fail, hopefully someone will come save me. You should probably just maybe check with someone first. Don't assume someone's going to come rescue you because, like, everyone's doing their own thing and people have headphones on.
Yeah. Most people are happy to spot you, though, because it makes them feel cool.
I think so, too.
Yeah. Plus, people at a gym are mostly helpful. There's definitely some not helpful people.
Yeah.
Mostly helpful.
I feel like other than Tripod Girl and the girl that did walking lunges, everybody at our gym was really nice.
Yeah. So, one other aspect of, staying injury-free and staying safe is knowing when to skip workouts and knowing how to manage your recovery. So make sure you listen to your body and skip workouts when you need to. And some of those situations might be like any kind of illness or a fever. Dizziness is a good reason to skip a workout.
No, or like if you're super tired, like you're running on like 2 or 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah, something like that. It's
maybe call it.
Yeah. Also, if you have some kind of injury, like an existing injury and it's flaring up, so maybe you have like a golfer's elbow or something like that, and it's like, oh, my elbow is killing me today, but I need to work out. Maybe you still go to the gym, just don't do arm stuff. I don't know. Or skip it.
Yeah. Or like maybe you're out in the heat all day and you're like not feeling real good.
Yeah.
Probably don't push it.
Yeah. Or if you're dehydrated.
Yeah, that's another good one.
Drink more water, but if you couldn't help it, probably wouldn't go to the gym dehydrated.
No.
Another thing that can help you stay healthy is making sure you're recovering properly. So some of the important things for that are like your sleep, your nutrition, your hydration we just mentioned. Protein specifically helps with muscle recovery. Mobility exercises, especially if you have an injury or you're doing some kind of rehab or something like that, or you have like a problem area, doing some mobility exercises around that can help a lot to keep it healthy. Also, make sure you have some rest days built into your program. You shouldn't be working out 7 days a week in most cases, and that doesn't really count cardio. You shouldn't really be lifting 7 days a week. Also, stress management is pretty important. So not necessarily directly related to the gym, but it can definitely impact your results if you're distracted or stressed.
Yeah. Also, it's like you want to be thinking clearly if you're going to go be lifting heavy stuff. So if you're too stressed that you can't even focus on what you're doing, that's probably not a good thing.
Yeah. Also, stress increases your cortisol, and like chronic cortisol can cause issues with muscle building and your diet adherence and things like that. So it can actually be impactful. And then, know when you might need to take a deload week. So that's basically a week where maybe you skip the gym entirely, or maybe you go to the gym, but you do like half the weight and 1 set less on everything. So you can like let your muscles really recover. And then you come back the week after that and get back to your normal program. So typically people like to do that something like every 8 to 12 weeks. If you're a beginner, you can probably go quite a while without needing one. But if you've been lifting for a while, you'll probably find yourself wanting a deload week, like maybe once a quarter, something like that. And then some other tips that don't really fit into the other categories we mentioned here are like staying hydrated, especially in the warm weather.
Yeah. Especially if you're like running outside or walking outside for long distances.
Yeah. And
hiking.
Right. And hydrated does not necessarily mean just water. You also want to make sure, like, if you're having a day where maybe you're not getting a lot of food or you're just eating a lot of whole food, maybe you want to make sure you add salt too. Make sure you get your electrolytes.
Yeah, or like Gatorade or something just to...
Or if you've been sweating a lot.
Yeah, if you're sweating excessively.
Yeah. You also want to make sure you're wearing stable shoes for lifting heavy. It's also pretty important. You don't want to be wobbling around while you got heavy weight over your head or on your back.
Inspect all equipment before you use it. You want to look for frayed cables, any damaged resistance bands, like if benches are loose or maybe like missing a screw or something or a bolt. Maybe don't use that one.
Yeah.
Or just damaged equipment in general, like we were talking about adjustable dumbbells. Like maybe make sure that the plates that are on there don't feel like wobbly or anything.
Yeah. Even something weird like an excessively bent barbell can throw your form off enough that it's like you can be a little weird.
Yeah, just check all your stuff out.
Yeah. Learn how to use machines that you're not familiar with. So you can usually watch videos or you can just ask somebody who works at the gym. They'll usually show you how to use the machine. But a lot of machines now will have like a QR code where you can go watch the video from the manufacturer and stuff like that. Or they just have little diagrams on them. So just take the time to make sure you understand how to use it. Sometimes you'll see people using the machines at the gym in like not the way that's documented. Sometimes that's intentional. Other times it's just they didn't bother looking it up.
Yeah, they just kind of guessed.
Yeah.
Also, know your basic emergency procedures at a gym, especially if it's like a new place you haven't been very often. You want to make sure you know of emergency exits in case there's a fire or something else, horrible. And you also want to know where the first aid kit's located in case something crazy happens to someone around you or you. Yeah.
Maybe even where like the defibrillator is. If you know how to use that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Practicing new exercises without weight or with light weights is typically a good idea, just so you can understand the motion, understand what you're getting yourself into, and then also to make sure that like you don't have any weird injuries you didn't know about or anatomical things that make it like really tricky for you to do.
Yeah.
That's much better to find out with lighter weight than it is with heavy weight.
Definitely. When you're leaving the gym, be aware of your surroundings, especially if it's night. Make sure you can hear and that you don't have headphones on if you're like in a dark parking lot or something. And then if you are in a dark parking lot, always park next to the lights.
Yeah.
This is, if you're a girl, you probably have already heard this your whole life.
Yeah, this is like baked into your core.
Yeah. Hold the keys between your hands in case you need to stab someone.
That's a good tip.
In the same vein, if someone's being like creepy or weird towards you at the gym, I would make sure you tell one of the gym employees, and just maybe have them walk you to your car or like make sure you're safe, keep an eye on you.
Yeah.
Those are just things to keep in mind because like, yeah, you don't know anyone's intentions around you, especially if you're in new places and alone.
That's true. Okay, so that is pretty much our spiel on safety first.
If we didn't cover anything, which seems unlikely because I'm kind of like a worst case scenario kind of girl, but if we didn't cover any and you'd like to give me something else to be paranoid about, drop it in the comments.
All right. Let's move on to our next segment, and another thing.
And another thing.
So honey seems to be one of the things that people really struggle to understand why vegans don't use it. There's also some debate in the vegan community on whether honey is or is not vegan. But I think the answer is fairly obvious because the bottom line is we don't exploit animals for our own gain. So it's not vegan.
So I will say honey is one of the things I didn't really understand before I went vegan because I just assumed there wasn't like any harm. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, even for a little while after I was vegan, we hadn't had honey yet, but I had to like understand like why we couldn't do honey because I always thought like kind of some of the stuff we're going to talk about here, like honey is just like a thing that exists.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, that's true for me. I think as soon as I went vegan, I was like, oh, we're not supposed to have honey, so I'm not going to eat honey. But I actually like never looked into the whys behind that. And then I think this is a question that's often asked to vegans. It's like, if bees are naturally making honey and then no bees have to die in the process of producing honey, then why isn't it vegan?
Right. And it's really, I mean, this is really, I don't know if I'd say a gray area, but it's definitely contested because I've been to vegan restaurants that use honey.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of plant-based restaurants that call themselves vegan restaurants. And it's like, I think they're like health-focused plant-based restaurants, but they like to use the word vegan. Which can be a little confusing because vegans aren't eating honey.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen at least one restaurant that has the word vegan in their title, and they apparently use honey.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think another thing that confuses non-vegans is that because honey is seen as like a healthy thing, a lot of non-vegans think that vegans are vegans for health. So they're like, if honey is, unquestionably healthy, then why aren't vegans eating it?
Yeah. I mean, that's not really a great argument because...
I know.
Yeah.
But I've seen it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, so I think let's start with what is honey? So first off, bees are not making honey for humans, obviously.
Yeah, that makes sense. They don't care about us.
They don't care about us. We're just these big giant things.
That they hate.
Yeah, that they hate. They want to sting you. No.
No.
But honey is actually their primary food source, and it's their energy supply for the winter season.
I don't think I really realized that it was their primary food source. Like, I think I knew they ate it, but I never really considered that that's like why they were making it is to make food for themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, I guess unless you go seeking out this information, I think everyone's limited knowledge is Winnie the Pooh steals honey, of which there seems to be an abundance in beehives.
Way more than the bees could ever use.
Yeah, so then that seems fine, I guess, question mark. But then also honey is pitched as like this like super healthy thing that'll keep you from being allergic to wherever you live. Or something like that, right?
It hasn't been proven to be a thing. Never say never, I guess.
Yeah.
But they've done a lot of research on it. So far, it does not appear to be a thing.
Yeah. So honey is actually for the bees. It helps them survive through the winter. And it's also incredibly important to just colony survival in general because there are certain bees within the colony that don't actually produce honey. Do you know how honey is made, and will you tell us?
Well, I learned how honey is made. So worker bees collect the nectar from the flowers.
Such little good guys.
Yeah. They fly the nectar all the way back to their hive. And you've probably seen bees with like stuff all over their back. That's how they get it there. They just like basically get in the flower, roll around in it. It's all attached to them and they fly back to the hive.
Okay. You want to know what I have seen?
What?
I've seen really cute pictures of a little tired bee that's all fuzzy that falls asleep in a flower, and he has pollen on his little butt, and it's so cute.
That's how it works.
And they're just sleepy, and they just sleep in the flower.
Yep. So once they get back to the hive, they basically regurgitate it over and over again, and they pass it between multiple bees.
Honestly, this is kind of gross. I'm not sure why people eat it.
Yeah.
You're eating bee vomit that's passed between many bees.
Yeah. So, and then the enzymes in their little bee mouths break down the complex sugars and turn them into simple sugars. Then the bees fan their wings to dry it and remove the excess moisture. What do you think about that? That
sounds kind of adorable.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Then they seal it in wax honeycombs so that it stays good for a long time.
This is kind of stupid, but like I, for some reason, never thought about where does the bees' wax come from. So I was reading about it when I researched this, and I guess young female worker bees that are between 12 and 18 days old, they make the wax by consuming honey and converting its sugars into wax inside their bodies. And then the liquid wax is secreted through their special abdominal glands, and then it hardens into tiny flakes.
So they're basically like a little manufacturing plant in there.
Yeah, and then they just mold it into hexagonal honeycomb cell. I think it's hexagonal. What are you saying it is?
Hexagonal.
No.
Because hexagon.
I think it's hexagonal.
Okay.
We're going to look that up. Let's look it up right now. Hold on, please. This is really important to me.
Hexagonal.
That's not what either of us were saying.
We've lost the plot. What were we talking about?
Anyway, I think we're all wrong.
But that's also why we don't use beeswax.
Right.
Because they make it.
They do make it. And it's for them.
For them to put their honey in.
They got to put their honey somewhere so it's all sealed and kept safe. This is really sad to me, but apparently a single bee can only produce 1/12 of a teaspoon in their entire lifetime.
Of honey?
Of honey. And they spend their whole little lives making it, and then bitches are out there eating whole spoonfuls of it in their tea. It took 12 little bees' entire lives for your 1 teaspoon. And you're using more of that. You're not just using 1 teaspoon. You're using a tablespoon. That's 36 little bees' entire lives.
That's crazy, actually.
Doesn't that make you sad?
That kind of does make me sad.
It makes me so sad. I mean, I might be close to my period, but I was almost crying reading this. I'm very upset about the bees.
That's, wow, 36 bees for 3 teaspoons of honey.
It's sad.
It's nuts.
Apparently, tens of thousands of little bees work together to produce a hive's honey stores.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of little bees that are so tired all day they have to fall asleep in flowers. That's how tired they are.
Teamwork makes the dream work. So now, why are the bees making that honey? So to survive the winter, droughts, things like poor flowering seasons, raising baby bees.
Baby bees.
Fueling the entire bee colony in general. It's literally their main food supply, and then humans just come in and take it.
It's evil. They take it so fast.
Yeah.
Okay, now, bees scare the shit out of me. But I think reading about it made me like bees more. But they still scare me, but I'm never going to hurt them.
Yeah.
And I respect them. And I also think they're cute, but I just really don't want them to touch me because I don't know why. They just scare me.
Yeah.
But I saw this guy the other day on TikTok. He got stung by this bee. And apparently, okay, so you know how their stingers get stuck in your arm. If they get stuck in your arm and then they pull out and they don't get their stinger out, they die. They hemorrhage.
I think that is only certain types of bees.
Sure.
Yeah.
This was the bee this guy got stung by.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to get rid of the bee, he let this little bee zoom around in different directions for 5 minutes straight to get his little stinger out so he didn't die.
Oh my gosh.
And he was just the little bee looked so embarrassed too. Because they're just man, I'm really sorry about this. Sometimes it just gets stuck places. But he was doing circles to the left and then doing circles to the right. Because I guess they have ridges on them and stuff.
It's got a barb on it.
Yeah. So he's trying to work it out of this guy's arm. It was kind of cute. I don't know what I would do. I'd be really
I've
scared.
I've seen you around bees.
I get so freaked out around bees.
I don't know if he'd get the chance.
I don't know.
Not by any malintention on your part.
I think I just wave my arms kind of maniacally.
Yeah.
Good. That guy's a hero. He just let that little bee wiggle its butt out. Anyways, so that's that. So let's talk about how beekeepers are assholes.
So it sounds bad enough that humans just steal the actual bee food they work so hard to make, but it does get a little worse from there.
It gets so sad.
So let's talk about what happens during commercial honey production. So beekeepers use smoke on the bees to keep them calm. I think everybody kind of knows that part.
Yeah, but I don't think most people know why.
Yeah. So it makes the bees believe that the hive may burn down, which causes them to gorge themselves on honey because they think all their hard work is going up in flames.
That is really, really sad. They basically think their house is on fire.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get as much as they can.
Yeah.
Before they escape.
Right. And so they get so full on honey that they become less defensive. And beekeepers kind of intentionally manipulate the bees to have a stress response.
That doesn't sound very vegan.
No, I don't think that is very vegan. So when the bees are at their most vulnerable, the beekeepers come in and they take a lot of the honey out of the hive while they're all docile from eating honey.
Because they thought their house was all burning on.
Obviously, this stresses the bees out even more. They spend a lot of energy trying to replace the honey that was taken. And also the beekeepers will sometimes replace the bee honey they took with corn syrup or sugar syrup.
That's a shitty replacement.
Yeah. And the reason it's a shitty replacement is because honey contains things like enzymes, amino acids, antioxidants, and some nutrients and natural antimicrobial compounds that keep the bees healthy and well fed. But regular sugar syrup doesn't really have most of those things.
Humans suck at bartering. That is a horrible trade.
Yeah. It's sad.
It actually is really sad. And then apparently other common commercial honey stealing practices also include artificial insemination of the queen, which we don't like that, clipping the queen's wings. They're clipping her wings?
That's sad.
She needs those. Then sometimes they'll even replace the old queen if she's not being productive enough with her, little army of bees.
Yeah.
That's shitty. They should get to vote on when the monarch's replaced.
Yeah.
But even worse, they kill older queens.
Wow. It's like some Game of Thrones shit.
I know. Why are humans messing with a monarchy of bees? And also stealing their food.
Yeah, I mean, this does seem to make the argument that honey's not vegan for sure.
It's really upsetting because I'm just imagining, okay, the closest I'm going to be able to get is Bug's Life. But I'm just imagining the ant queen. I loved the ant queen in Bug's Life.
Yeah.
And I loved the little ant princesses.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining them clipping their little wings. It's super sad.
Some of the other things that happen are the male drones are often removed because they're consuming the resources, but they don't produce honey.
Yeah.
So most people assume that bees don't die during honey production, but that's not really true.
Yeah, apparently there are accidental deaths where bees can be crushed during inspections, killed by machinery, and trapped during transport.
I mean, it makes sense because you're pulling the honeycombs and stuff in and out all the time. Surely you're going to crush
They're not
some
super
bees.
careful.
Yeah.
Also, I read that sometimes they will kill off entire colonies of bees after their pollination contracts are up because it's cheaper to buy new bees than it is to keep those alive through the next season.
No,
that's
sucks.
fucking ridiculous.
Especially when we have I keep hearing about the bee shortage.
I know. We'll get into that too.
Yeah. And we're not saying every beekeeper does this, but it is a practice within the commercial honey industry. I know there are some beekeepers out there that are very protective over their bees. I still don't think it's vegan.
I mean, I think if they wanted to be really nice to their bees, they'd let the bees keep their honey.
That's true. Yep.
So that's that on that. So now we're going to talk about some environmental impacts. Did you know that honeybees aren't actually the only bees or the only pollinators?
Well, I knew they weren't the only bees, but I guess I didn't know. Well, I guess bumblebees are pollinators, so I guess I knew that.
Yeah. So apparently, honeybees are managed as livestock in many parts of the world so that humans can steal their honey because they're very efficient at producing honey. But there are actually a lot of native bees as well. Like you said, bumblebees, mason bees, leafcutter bees. Isn't that a cute little name? Leafcutter? Yeah. Mining bees, sweat bees, and carpenter bees. And a lot of the native bee populations are decreasing.
Right. Yeah, I've heard about this for a long time now.
Well, so high densities of honeybees can actually be bad for the native bees.
Oh, interesting.
Because they're basically competing for nectar and pollen with the native bees.
Okay.
So, they're coming in from places that they shouldn't be, and then they're competing with the bees that already live there.
So because we're breeding honeybees to make honey for us, that makes more honeybees, which are worse for the other bees.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, because we're breeding them, they can spread parasites and diseases more.
Yeah.
And alter plant pollinator interactions.
Yeah.
And in general, it just kind of hurts the natural biodiversity, which would have a bunch of different pollinators.
Right. It wouldn't be the vast majority honeybees.
Right. And if you think about it this way, if we are like forcing a large majority of honeybees, and then you have like a disease that could potentially wipe out one specific type of bee, and like now all we have is honeybees, how are we going to pollinate our food?
Yeah.
Because like you basically like screwed over the native bees. And, a lot of people assume that our crops won't be pollinated if not for beekeepers keeping the bees. But that's not really true because there are lots of pollinators.
Yeah.
And then wild pollinators can sometimes pollinate certain plants more effectively than honeybees can.
Well, they, that's what they do. So
yeah, it's like just, their natural skill set. And then, other pollinators, some of the other native bee species, sometimes they'll visit flowers under different weather conditions than like honeybees would.
Yeah, they work a different shift.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They complement the honeybee population.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So protecting the native pollinators is actually more beneficial for the long term than managing honeybee colonies. Which, I think makes sense because, like, that's how it's been for thousands of years before we started, like, fucking around with honeybees.
Yeah. Who would have thought that nature is better at doing nature than corporations are?
Me. So, even if you're buying locally from beekeepers who seem to care for their bees and don't kill their bees, we are still taking food from bees that is meant for bees. So, definitely not vegan. And I think that's that.
Yeah. And I know one thing, like, I think the bees make more honey than they'll use, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we should take the honey. Because, again, they are stocking...
for, like, other things.
Well, they're stocking up so much because, like, things might happen. They think, like... And I guess maybe these things wouldn't happen in a honeybee farm or something, but they don't know that. So they're just stocking it up for issues that might happen. Maybe the beekeeper will die, and they need all the honey.
Right, exactly. But also... they don't understand that they're being bee kept.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they just think, I need all of these stores because, like, winter might happen or, like, something might happen with the flowers and I may need the stores. And then even if those things don't happen and they have excess, if the beekeepers are taking it, that kind of freaks them out because they're like, well, oh shit, I don't have as much as I need. So then they work harder and harder and harder, which reduces their lifespan, and they just live a very stressed life.
They're just little preppers. You won't let them prep.
I feel such a kinship after hearing all of that because I'm also a prepper.
What are some of the alternatives to honey? Well, we have...
there are a ton.
Some of them are like maple syrup. That's a big one. That just comes out of trees.
Yeah.
Agave syrup, date syrup.
We have some agave in our fridge. Brown rice syrup, sorghum syrup.
Dandelion honey.
You can make your own dandelion honey.
Apple honey.
We should make dandelion honey. I get kind of stressed out, like... is there a good way to wash dandelions and make sure they're not, like, dirty?
The pollen in flowers isn't typically what people are allergic to, but I just don't know how I'd feel about, like, eating dandelion honey, because I do have a pollen allergy. So we'd have to look in a little more.
I guess you're just going to have to not be a little bitch about it.
Yeah, I guess I will. There's also bee-free vegan honey.
Yeah, we've bought this before. It tastes very similar.
Yeah, it tastes basically the same.
Yeah, and I think with the bee-free vegan honey, I'm pretty sure that the people that are making it are actually, like, throwing it up and stuff over and over again.
Bonus!
They're not. You should still buy it. It's not gross.
It really does taste just the same as honey to me.
It does, yeah.
I can't notice any difference at all.
Yeah, I tried it because the only way I can eat tea is if it's 50% honey because I hate the taste of tea.
Yeah.
So... tried it in that.
It also, like, looks the same consistency.
It has the same...
it's, like, identical.
Yeah, it is pretty much.
So if you want to help bees, some of the things you can do are plant native wildflowers. We plant, not a huge patch, but we plant some wildflowers in the backyard. Also, we plant flowers, like, in the middle of our garden. Yeah. So the bees can come and help pollinate our garden plants and stuff like that. But, it's a win-win.
Yeah. We don't know where their hive is, but we wouldn't steal their honey even if we did.
Also, try to avoid broad-spectrum pesticides that could cause issues for the bees.
Yep. This one, this is like if you want bees in your yard, but the suggestion is to leave some areas in your yard less manicured so that they can, like, nest.
Yeah.
Maybe not if you have, like, dogs or, like, small children running around. Yeah. I don't know.
We're growing the flowers. I don't know if we're going to let the grass grow wild for bees, but we do have the flowers.
Yeah.
Also, you can grow flowering plants that bloom across multiple seasons. Not necessarily flowers, but plants that flower.
All right. And then moving on to bite-sized coaching. Remember, I get to ask you the questions.
All right. Ask me the question.
So if you didn't know, Muscle Deficient Vegan here is a personal trainer. So we started this new segment where we're going to cover a question he's been asked or a question he could be asked, and he's going to give you an answer that's short and concise.
Yeah, very brief.
So this came from an AMA that you posted on Reddit.
Yeah.
Here's the question. I just saw a vegetarian personal trainer at my gym, and he said I have plateaued because I've been doing the same routine for over 6 months, and I need muscle confusion, and then he recommended changing my exercises every 2 to 3 months. Is that bullshit?
Yeah, the short answer is that's bullshit. Usually a plateau is going to be like lift or exercise specific. You're going to plateau in one thing or the other. You're not necessarily going to plateau across your entire program most of the time. If your progress across your entire program has plateaued, you probably have a recovery issue, but it could be some other things. So it's not going to be like because you haven't changed your exercises. If it's just one or two lifts that are plateauing, changing the lift can help mentally with keeping up motivation just because you get to see progress again and you get to try something new. But it's not because of muscle confusion. Like, even if you want to keep the same exercises, there's always going to be something you can do to keep progressing. It's going to be like, maybe you add sets, you switch from doing low reps to high reps, maybe you change like tempo, or you switch from doing it with a barbell to a dumbbell, maybe something like that. But it's not a muscle confusion thing.
I feel like muscle confusion implies that your muscles have the capacity to think.
Yeah, so your muscles, they just contract.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what you do to it, like your muscle just contracts to, move the bone basically. And it does the thing. So it's not going to get confused because it doesn't know what it's doing. It just knows it's contracting.
Yeah. Would this be a good case for like a deload week like you were talking about earlier?
Yeah. I mean, definitely. If you, like I said, if your entire program has plateaued, maybe it's time for a deload week. So I would do a deload week and then try to get back in there, basically pick up where you left off and go from there. Something else it could potentially be is like if you're doing shoulder press or something else with small muscles, maybe the jump and load that your plates at your gym can give you is a little too high. So you can get fractional plates. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have plates that are like, you have a 45, a 25, a 10, a 5, and a 2.5. So if you add a 2.5 to each side of a barbell, that adds 5 pounds. But with something like shoulder press, or maybe even with bench press sometimes, you can progress a little smoother if you only add 2.5 pounds at a time. So you can go get fractional plates that are 1.25 pounds each, and you can find these online. They're very common. And then you can progress, from session to session by 2.5 total pounds instead of having to progress by 5 pounds, which can help smooth out your progression quite a bit.
They even have frac plates that are like, what, 1/4 of a pound? They can go down pretty small.
They go down to like 1/4, half a pound, 3/4. They have a lot of them.
I feel like that's like an easier way to move up in weight,
Yeah.
Yeah.
People don't like to see the number go up that slowly, but I mean, if you wanted to do the smallest fractional plate and just add that every time, you take you longer to progress in the weight. And a lot of muscles are too big to need that. But if you're doing something really small, maybe even like wrist curls or something like that, it would definitely be a good.
Or like lateral raises.
Yeah, lateral raises are a good one. Going from 12-pound dumbbells to 15-pound dumbbells and lateral raises,
jump.
Pretty big jump. So yeah, stuff like that.
So if you're not loading a barbell where fractional plates would really work, you can also buy wrist weights.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of wrap them around whatever you're lifting, whether that's a dumbbell or, probably a dumbbell, maybe a kettlebell or something.
You could use them on a barbell too. If you didn't want to get fractional plates,
exactly.
You already had ankle weights or whatever, you can just kind of wrap the ankle weights around where the plates go on the bar. And you're basically adding a pound to each side. It's easy.
Yeah, you can buy them in like 1 pound, 2 pound, whatever. But yeah, that could help too.
Well, I want to do my favorite part now, where you read the mean things that people said to you on social media this week. Do you have anything cool to share this week?
Boy, I have a lot to pick from. Facebook people are kind of mean.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of really nice people on Facebook, but like the mean ones are like way meaner than any other apps. So here are some of my mean things that have been said to me on Facebook.
All right, let's hear it.
And I don't know what this means. Maybe it's not mean. We're not like super sure. We're pretty sure though that it's mean. People, get your act together. Protect yourselves. Be not unguarded. Watching carefully. You're not stupid. Don't get deceived or turned around. Blood brought you to us at the time we needed to be encouraged and strengthened. Amen.
I literally have no idea what that's supposed to mean. Do they love you? Do they hate you?
I think they might hate me.
Okay.
But I'm not sure.
All right. Well, that's a comment.
Then, here's another one.
Okay.
Now I said the edamame puffs are 80% protein on a calorie basis.
Right.
Which is factually true.
Yeah.
This person said 80% calories sounds extremely misleading. And I said, well, in what way? And then they said, nobody measures protein in calories. We all measure it in grams. Trying to reference protein in terms of calories is an instant red flag.
I think they might have been a little confused. I don't think it was like, there's 80 calories worth of protein in this protein bar.
Not really sure. I tried to talk to them and they just got meaner, so I blocked them.
Okay.
And if you're mean to me on Facebook, you should know I'm going to block your ass. I'm going to take screenshots of your rude things first, though, for my entertainment.
Only if you're mean, not if you disagree.
No. If you're a dick, though, you'll be blocked. See, I didn't block this guy. He's just kind of odd. This is in a video where I make cheese from silken tofu.
Okay.
Why would I eat cheese that's made from beans? And I said, for the good of animals and the environment. And he said, if I want bean protein, I'll eat beans. I'm not going to try and make something taste like meat when it's not meat. And I said, well, cheese is dairy. And he said, so I'm not vegan. Don't ask why I'm on a vegan page, because I'm not. Your page is on my reels.
Why does this guy get an accent?
I don't know. But he also left another one that said, it doesn't taste like ground beef.
Well.
So he's just kind of like all over my shit.
Yeah, he likes you, I guess.
But I didn't block him because he's kind of entertaining me. So he just looks like he needs an accent. I'm not really sure. That's maybe unfair. Pretend I didn't have an accent. And that's that for the week.
Right.
There are probably 20 others I could have chosen, but those are my favorites.
Yeah, I do remember some pretty mean ones. I think you really picked some of the nicer ones, to be honest. All right, so a couple of announcements we have. The book club starts on Monday, the 22nd. There's still time to join. The book is Eating Animals. That'll be actually the day this podcast comes out, but feel free to jump in.
But you can still join because we're going to be talking about, we're basically breaking the book into 4 sections, and we're going to be talking about 1 section per week. So the book club is actually going on for a whole month.
Yeah, even if you want to join halfway through. Hey, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, you can catch up. You can definitely catch up.
Yeah.
Also, we're going to be doing something similar to Book It. So if you join this is our first time announcing it. I'm really, really, really excited because I love Book It. But if you don't know what Book It is, it's this thing that was happening in the U.S. in elementary schools, and I guess it's still kind of happening.
Owned by Pizza Hut.
Yeah. So there's that.
It is.
But so basically, now I can only tell you what my experience was as an elementary school because I don't have a child and I don't know how they're doing it these days. But they give you a pin, right? Like a little button, and the button would have spots for stickers.
Yeah.
And you'd have to fill up the stickers, and then you could go to Pizza Hut and be like, look, I filled in my pin, and then they would give you a personal pan pizza for free.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we're doing something similar. We even made buttons that are going to say like vegan book club.
Yeah.
And we're going to do animal stickers.
Yeah.
So any book club that you participate in, you're going to get, well, first we're going to send you the button.
Yeah.
And then for each book club you participate in, you're going to get an animal sticker. And then once you hit 4, we're going to do something special. And we don't know exactly what that is, but it will likely involve pizza.
Yeah. It probably will not be a Pizza Hut personal pan pizza because those are not vegan, but.
Well, they are vegan if you don't get cheese, but who wants that?
That's true.
But
also can't really mail those.
Yeah. We have been like, toying around with the idea of like Blaze is pretty popular where we are.
Yeah.
And like maybe if someone has a Blaze near them, we would do a gift certificate so they can go get a Blaze pizza.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it'll be 4. If you complete 4 book clubs, then you'll get whatever it ends up being. But, we're only doing 1 book club every quarter. So that's a year in advance and we will figure it out by then.
Yeah. Cool.
But if like Book It is appealing to you, you should definitely join the book club so you can get your first sticker.
Yeah. And again, the book club is virtual in our Discord, chat-based only, no specific time commitments, no live calls, anything like that.
Which means we can have people from every country. Yeah. And we have a few people from different countries. So that's exciting.
Yeah. Also, if you want to join our Discord in general, we are almost at 200 people in the Deficient Vegans Discord.
It's getting kind of cool.
Yeah, very busy in there. If you need some vegan friends or you just want a place where you can ask like fitness or nutrition questions or ask about some of the recipes or anything like that, you should definitely join, and it's down in the show notes.
We even created a channel where people are sharing their vegan origin stories, which has been really fun to read because we created that today and we've been watching them roll in.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening. If you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify, please leave us a rating or review. That really helps us out. If you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, if you could leave a comment, we love seeing those. You can check out our websites, our social media, if you want to get in touch down in the show notes.
We've even started adding blog posts to the Deficient Vegan website, so those will be rolling in too.
Yeah, and those will be more like veganism focused, maybe intros to veganism, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, cool. All right. Well, I think that's it. Do you want to say bye?
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.